Ampire. Hey babies, I don't work on Labor Day. Hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. What's up, Callow? How was your long weekend? You have a good one?
It was good. Went to Richmond for a little bit. Had a good time going to the breweries down there.
Checked out all the great breweries of Richmond.
Breweries, did an 18-mile run in that humidity, which was a battle. So I earned all of those beers on Sunday. So yeah, it was a nice little weekend.
Scott's Edition, I assume, where Vale is and Ardent is and all the
you almost had it right. It was Ardent, Vassin, Vale. Did ZZQ for the first time. Had never had ZZQ.
Very good barbecue. Yes. Very, very, very good bar. Kime goes crazy about ZZQ. Very good barbecue down there. Yes.
Blown away by everything that I had there. Got a lot of different things from them. Great service too. So couldn't say enough about ZZQ. And then our friend Scott Lynn told me to go to a brewery called The Answer, which I can't recommend enough as well. Also had some really, really, really good beers as well. So next time you're down there, go to there. That's not at Scott's Edition. That's like in another part of the city. But yes, Richmond's brewery scene, pretty undefeated.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. Did you get the soul food? Did you do a little?
No, did not do the soul food. Just by the time, we were kind of getting out of there, it was like, just ready to get out.
Mama
so we
J's?
didn't
skip out on Mama J's. All right.
I've had Mama J's too. So I knew, what I was, possibly missing out on. But yeah, I think you and I have been to Mama J's together. But
we don't go to Richmond anymore for training camp. I have my annual retreat there. Mama J's couple times, all the breweries, ZZQ I've known about for years. I know Richmond.
Yes.
The way the wind is blowing, I don't think we're going back there, but you never know. Never know. Not here to break any news, but I'm saying the wind isn't blowing in that direction. So we'll see how we go.
According to Lavero, West Virginia, hon, get ready for that.
He's not wrong. All right, so let's see. All right, let's see. What did we miss? A lot. Boy, a lot happened here. This one happened yesterday, which is Todd Bowles says Redskins a lot. So if you haven't seen this clip, which I'm sure you have, the coach of the Buccaneers is talking about playing against the Redskins over and over and over. He says it at least a couple of times. The question was just something about Jaden Daniels or something. And he's like, we're not playing Jaden Daniels. We're playing the Redskins. And then he said it like 2 or 3 more times. So let me ask the obvious question. Did he do that on purpose? Because I'm sure he knows that that's not the team name anymore, right?
But I think you do have to give Bowles a little bit of a pass because he used to play for the team here.
So any ex-player is allowed to liberally use it. Are we grandfathering that in? Is that what's going on here?
I think if you're someone of that age and you put your time in as a player, you can say whatever you want. And I'm not one to tell you that you're wrong. And I mean, clearly it's a line being drawn to of this brand. I hate this branding. That's what he's saying there. I'm not calling them by that name. That was a clear line.
It was on purpose. You think it was on purpose?
Oh, 100%. This wasn't like a senile old man moment. This was a I'm not calling them that moment. I think that's what it was.
Wow. Well, it's just like, why though? Just like, because there's no that's not needling the team in any way. Like they don't care. Like that's like, I mean, I guess when Quinn wore the shirt in the offseason, it was already the door was open. Inside, we're okay with it, guys. If you just kind of happen to bring, but I don't know what to make of it because he knows better. Everybody knows better. I think the NFL does not want anybody in the NFL doing that, but no one seems to care. Like we're in the year 2024 is the year where people just kind of casually bring it up as if it's no big deal anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would stop this is if the NFL actually wanted to start fining coaches for saying the wrong name. But is Goodell going to do that? No, because it's just going to bring more attention to a different level of branding. And so, and you can't technically fault, like I said, some of these older guys who did play for the organization under that name, where they're so used to it being that. And
even Rod did it. Remember last year, he was like, he just said it. He was like, it's hard not to say it. I played against him a million times in big games.
Right.
It's like, but you're the one that we have a video of, like, looking at the branding and gave away what it was going to be. And you were intimately involved in all of that.
Right.
Why
but
are
also,
you calling them that?
Right. But also Ron Rivera, famously of the 86 Bears. So, I mean, there's that side of things too.
85 Bears. 85 Bears.
Oh, sorry. Is that now what the crest is supposed to be?
We'll look at that Super Bowl championship and think it's the 86 Bears. It's not. It's the 85 Bears.
Just saying. You can't have it both ways.
On that one too. It's the 85 Bears. We've all called it that.
Just saying, Ron can't have it both ways. He can't go with the old name and the new year. I'm just saying he couldn't do it both ways.
So let me get to the other thing, which I haven't gotten to, which is like one of my favorite preferred readings of the summer, is Ben Standig's Agent piece, which came out last week in The Athletic. He actually did a podcast about it on Last Man Standing, where he basically goes through the whole thing. So worth reading, worth listening to, where he basically has these connections with all of these agents, and he just asks them a bunch of topical questions. Some of them are repetitive, like who are the good organizations, which organizations suck. Every year, that was the worst part of reading this, was you knew what they were going to say about Washington under previous ownership. What was nice about this one was the page has been turned in the agent world. Like, answer the initial all answers were all like, you know what? Those guys are doing some pretty cool stuff. So that was nice to see. And we also got I don't know, man, that Adam Peters guy really knows what he's doing. And it was nice to get validation from the agents going, listen, we don't think they're going to flip it around in 1 year, but we kind of like what they're doing over there. So, boy, our Q rating went up in a year in Ben Standig's Agent piece of how good things are going here in year one of this new ownership.
Well, wasn't that one of the most referenced things when Peters got hired? When Standig did this in 2023, every agent, he asked the agents, like, who's the up and coming GM? And everybody said Adam Peters. And so everybody was referencing that when Peters was hired. And so I'm just glad to see that even the agents, like, don't forget who they voted on to be like the next big thing here. I'm glad they just stayed consistent is all.
You know, I don't think he might answer a question about himself, maybe. But when I see him one of these times, I really want to ask him, what took him so long to take one of these jobs? Because most people don't wait that long to take one of these jobs. And if you go back and look where he was, he started as like a scout in 03. So it's been 20 years, and it was with the Patriots. So they won a ton. Then he goes to Denver, and they got Peyton Manning, and they won. And then he goes to San Francisco, and they won. I'd love to know, like, what took him so long to want to do this? Because here we are in year one, and I also think he's, everybody's think I'm biased. I also think he's done a very good job here in year one. What I've described as baselining the roster, albeit if you listen to them a week ago, him, Quinn, if you listen to the assistant GM, they don't necessarily think that this is a year one, let's see what our record is. They kind of think that they're going to do a little better than maybe people think they're going to do. But I really would love to know now, like, in seeing it in action, seeing how he operates, how quiet he is about everything. He's learned that lesson along the way. Like, what took him so long to take one of these jobs? I don't know, because he clearly is ready for it. And even all the agents in 1 year and one off season are saying he might be near the top of my list next year, the way he's operated in 1 year.
I think he did kind of mention this in one of his opening pressers. He did say he wanted the right opportunity. And I have to probably just agree that that's why it took so long, is he was really looking for the right place. Because let's be honest here, teams that need a new GM are generally terrible, right? And look, like, the unsuccessful franchises run through them faster. Like, the successful ones don't exactly have to hire a new GM, or there's a breaking point and you want to take advantage. Like, if the Steelers needed a new GM, he'd probably take that one, right? But he wasn't going to take, this is a bad example, but like the Browns come to mind, but the Browns are good now, right? Like the Browns have their stuff together, but you look at some other franchises where like, he's not going to go take the Cardinals gig, or he's not going to take like, the Panthers gig, something like that. Like, I think he was truly looking for a good scenario, because I think he knows if you fail, it sets you back. You don't get another one of those opportunities as a GM, is what I'm saying. I think coaches do, but GMs, it's harder to jump back into that unless you were successful.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm happy he's here. And I also feel like the clouds have lifted, obviously. But I'd love to know, what did Josh Harrison Company say to him to convince him this was a good opportunity? I'd like to know. Because, like, to your point about the Cardinals, like, rough ownership, granted, that's different now, and haven't won very much, here and there. They had good teams. They got the Super Bowl, like, it's not like they were bad all the time. But like this one, similarly, no consistency in winning for a very long time. I'd love to hear it from him. Like, what was it about this one that brought him here? And, we'll see what he says about it. But I mean, like, honestly, like, that was reassuring, hearing all the agents basically say they like the way he's handled everything. They like the way things are going. And I'm feeling the momentum of, and maybe a lot of this happens like at this time of year, everybody's got to have a new take about everything. So all of a sudden there's just a little bit of momentum where people are going, you know what, that Jaden Daniels guy might be really good. And if he's really good, then maybe like their record's going to be better than people think it's going to be. And so everybody has to have a take about it. And maybe that's what's happening here. And listen, I hope that that's the case. And at least this is one of the first years as we enter week one that I don't even really know what a guess at the record is. Like I just don't know what I'm about to get, what I'm about to see. Very excited about it. I've been very excited about what Jaden Daniels has looked like. I love what Quinn is building. I love reading all this stuff and how positive the environment is here. All of a sudden, we haven't had that in a very long time. It's all arrows pointing up, buddy. I love it. Okay. I love all of that. And I can't wait to see what we get in Tampa. But I think guessing what they're going to be is like foolish. I really do. I have no idea. I've been to every practice. I have no idea what I'm about to get on Sunday at all.
Well, and I think the other side of the coin here with all of this is something that I've been trying to say all off season is like, I think the fans here need to like realize what is a successful season. Like winning 9 or 10 games is successful, but like
undoubtedly,
of course.
They haven't won double-digit games in a long time. Like that would be incredible if that happened.
But like winning 9 or 10 games and Jaden looks terrible. Like, what's a successful season at that point? Like I've even said like a 5 or 6 win season, but they're in every game because Jaden looks really, really good and like the defense just can't keep up or whatever. Like that to me is also a successful season though, because if you've established that you have your quarterback, we all know what happens after that. And like this is the other part. Houston ruined it for everybody, for rookie quarterbacks. Stroud goes off and they go all in one season later. Like the timeline got faster here, literally in 1 year. Like we haven't seen a team do that. And so I think that's the other part here is like the expectations for fans for what a successful season is. I don't think people really know what that is. But if Jaden looks good, I don't care what the record is. Like I think that's what I'm saying.
I got to tell you, internally, okay, so when this thing started, like, just think about how they were talking about it, where they said, like, we're not rebuild. They didn't want to say rebuild, even though that's exactly what they did. I mean, they like tore down the whole thing minus a few prominent players. Like, that's really it. They tore down the whole thing with the exception of a few prominent players. They literally changed everything. And they started calling it a recalibration is what they called it because they didn't want to use the word rebuild. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. As things have gone along here, like, listen to them last week, all of them. When David Aldridge was there for The Athletic and he asked Quinn about, he asked what I thought was, he tried to put it in what I thought was a really good way, which was, I know you want to win. You're a head coach. You're extremely competitive. But it was kind of like, without saying it, come on, man. Like, don't make us believe something's going to happen really fast. And if you listen to his answer was basically like, I hear you, but I think we're better than you think we are. And I also do want to win every game. And I also don't ever want to walk into a meeting and tell everybody, guys, 8 and 9 would be great. Like they don't want to hear it. Peters, I'm learning, and we talked about this last week, hyper competitive, doesn't like losing. And then when the assistant GM came out last week, Lance Newmark, he did a press conference. He also reiterated, we want to win in the future, but we really want to win now. And I'm starting to believe that they think that they're better than people think they are. That's where I am on it. And maybe, and this came up last week when the waivers came up and they didn't pick up anybody. And I went there and I watched this and I go, wow, there wasn't one player out of all the cuts that you thought, would improve your team. I think they like what they have. And then they went and signed Noah Brown, which might as well be the same thing, honestly. I mean, so they didn't pick him up on waivers, whatever. They signed him as a free agent. He was a cut. Like, I think they are, and maybe we'll find out as the season goes, do they like their team a little too much? Are they in their own bubble a little too much? Or are they right? Have they been around the block so long, Peters being in all these different organizations that won, Newmark being at a place that lost for a long time, but sees what winning looks like in recent years, for sure. They're smelling themselves a little bit. I mean, like, you can feel it that they're like, they think this is better than people think it is. And I guess we'll find out. But it goes back to like where I was. I don't know. Like, I try to land in both lines. Like, I am optimistic. I want them to be good. I know I wear rose-colored glasses with them, but I also think I'm capable of seeing the vulnerabilities and the warts. And I think both of those things exist. Like, I love the way Jaden's looked. I love what Quinn is building here. Like, reading this stuff that Ben's writing about is very reassuring because the outside world sees very positive momentum of what's happening here. But then I look at some of the position groups and I go, I can't see them winning 12 games with these kinds of vulnerabilities. So I don't know. And that's why I think I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling the momentum. I want them to be good, but I don't know what I'm going to get starting this weekend. And I don't think we're going to know what we're going to get for the whole year, honestly. Like, we're going to have to see how this thing grows.
I mean, I think what they're banking on is they're banking on last year. The chemistry was completely at zero, right? With the Bieniemy thing, with how the coaching was with Jack and Ron, like, chemistry was at zero. And I think what they're banking on now is fresh start for everybody. Everybody's going to compete. That's been the buzzword of the summer has been competitive, right? And I think what they're banking on is maybe if we get this chemistry back right, which is what it seems like it is, right? Like, we're seeing new energy from John and Payne and McLaurin, right? And so I think what they're banking on is like chemistry is going to get us 2 wins, probably 3 wins alone, because it seems like everyone's pulling on the same rope. Everyone's listening to everybody. Like, I think the biggest example is both the first round picks with Jamin Davis and Emmanuel Forbes, that like they've fallen in line and are good soldiers about everything. We're not hearing them, bitch or complain about their roles or whatever. And Jamin made the team at a new position. I think this regime is pretty much going, they somehow won four games last year off of showing up. And so if we can get them to not only show up, but also just play hard, we should win 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 games off that alone. I think that's what they're really banking on here, because you and I would always look at this team in the summer with Ron and go, there's some talent here.
Yes.
But then like last year, it fell off so badly that everybody was questioning everything. Like, how bad is this roster now? Like, where is the talent? Like, all of a sudden, everyone was written off. And I think what they're saying is it's not as bad as you think it is, I think is what they're getting at.
Yeah. And I never thought it's bad. Like, I started to look around after they kind of re-baseline the roster, and there are places where I think they're very strong, actually. And then it's going to come, like, I think in the middle of the field on defense, they're actually quite strong between John, Duran, maybe Newton. I just haven't seen him play yet. The linebackers, which is the vast upgrade that they made in the offseason. Chin and Martin, like, in between the hash marks on defense, I think they're stout. And I think they're very, very good. It's on the edges and on the outside where I have the concerns, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. And then I love what I've seen from Jaden. I like this collection of talent. I don't know that they're very explosive, that's a problem in a modern NFL where if you don't have explosive players, but we'll see. I could be wrong about that. And then I look at the offensive line and I go, all right, let's see. I mean, they seem to be streaking towards banking on a 3rd round pick starting at left tackle, having not taken a single snap in the preseason. listen, I'm all for optimism, but like the idea that he's not going to have a few bad plays along the way here early in the season, I think is foolish to think that about him. So like, let's see how that goes. But that I always fall back on too. Like, it's not who you play, it's when you play them. We don't know what this team's going to look like as the season progresses. We don't know what their opponents are going to look like. And I honestly feel like I'd rather play Tampa Bay now than later. I actually think they're good. Well, they were a playoff team. They are good. They brought back all their guys. They have a very good team. I think they're a favorite. We'll do divisions later this week, but I actually think they're a favorite, honestly, to win their division. Personally, I think they're going to win their division again. I would rather play them in week 1 when they have no idea who we are and they're calling us the Redskins all the time. They don't even know. They don't even know our name. Like, that's good. Like, that's a good thing. Like, they've hidden what they are. Nobody knows what's showing up. Maybe they could fool them a few times, pop up a couple big plays. Bowles is an extremely defensive play caller, aggressive play caller, extremely aggressive. So that can work against you. That could be good for you, and that can work against you if your team doesn't know what's coming. So I'm hoping we steal this weekend off of they don't know what they don't know about us, so much so they call us by the wrong name all the time.
I think the other underrated factor there too is like Tampa was really good with that offensive coordinator with Baker. Like, they clearly got along together, and now he's in Carolina. And so I think
he's a whisperer, by the way. He fixed Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. Like, right. I actually think Carolina, for once, I think they'll undermine him. But like, I think they got it right. Like, you go find out if Bryce Young's any good. Find out with this guy.
Right. And so that's what I think is the other factor here is like, how far along is that offense? We have no idea as well on that side of the ball. So that's another factor where I'm with you. I'd rather play them right now before they kind of figure it out with Baker and a new offense too.
2 other pieces from Ben's piece that I just want to bring up before we go. They universally think that Jerry Jones blew it on Dak Prescott. Every single quote, and all of them are anonymous. None of the agents give their names, but every single agent in there was basically like, they have blown it on this guy. They have no leverage. They never had any leverage. Now the clock's ticking on them. It's only getting worse. And if you listen to Dak the other day where he said something to the effect of, he was like, not getting me a deal before the season starts is basically very telling about how they feel about everything. Now they've just ticked him off. So this is good for us because I think this is going to go sideways. McCarthy was laying groundwork in the summer about how don't blame me. People are coming at Jerry. Jerry had, just freaked out on Clarence Hill the other day and was F-bomb this and F-bomb that nobody's better at being a GM than me. He seems to have lost his fastball here. They did get CeeDee Lamb done. They haven't figured out Dak. I mean, I feel like, should they find out whether they want to pay him $60-65 million a year? Yeah, I think they should. But the longer this goes on, the way it's gone on and the way they've messaged it, sounds like that they're trying to be like, we'll get to our franchise quarterback. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't feel right. It feels off. Like, their defensive staff was rated. They lost a lot of players. They replaced almost none of them. Like, it's really off. They could go sideways this year, like easily be an under 500 team. I think their roster's kind of too good to be bad, but them doing what the Eagles did a year ago, where it just goes sideways on them, I could see that this year.
I mean, I think it's one extreme or the other. They either do exactly what they did last year or it goes sideways. But the thing with Dak, they're
not winning 12 again. I'll bet my house on that. They're not winning 12 again. Not with all the people they lost. No way. Like, the NFL's too tough to win 12 games with a depleted roster from where you were. No way. I don't buy that.
Probably not. But I will say this is Dak is probably going to play about as free as he ever has, mainly because he knows he's getting paid on the other side. Like, he could actually have a down year, but someone's going to step up and pay him if Dallas doesn't. So, like, I think Dak is actually, like, going to actually have a really good year, and then he's also going to play a little bit more free. I will say, too, they scream a little bit of how the Commanders were last year. Like, if they have a couple bad losses early and it's, 2-4, and Stephen A's walking in on those Mondays with the cowboy hat on and everything, and that team chemistry goes sideways, yeah, I could see it going sideways real quick on them.
Yeah.
They're going to be an interesting watch because then also, I said this, CD's paid now. So, like, that's good. They knocked it out of the way. But if Dak doesn't get paid and Dak walks, then Mike is asking, why would I want to be here? Like, if you're not going to pay that guy, like all of a sudden, all these dominoes start to kind of fall. And that's where I think the fun can happen for us. I mean, it falls apart on them.
Last one real quick. The agents all kind of in unison agreed that Brandon Ayuk took everything a little too far. Now, he did get what he wanted. He got the deal done. So did he? I don't know. In the end, from my point of view, he went way too far showing like pictures of our practices and things like that. I thought it went too far just in general of, I just don't know. Like, I get in the modern world of negotiation, people do this, but his felt above and beyond. And then after all the reporting came out, even though his agents say this didn't happen, but too many reporters said this deal's been on the table for 3 weeks. And for some reason, he wasn't accepting it, which I still think the reason may be he just wanted to play here for something like, for whatever reason. I think that's what it was. Like, I think he was holding out to try to get a deal to here and or stay there. Because he could have gone to Pittsburgh, he could have gone to Cleveland, he could have gone to New England. They all would have paid him the same amount of money. The money was on the table from San Francisco. I think the only logical conclusion was I would go play with my best friend if they let me do it. So, and I also agree with all the agents. He went a bridge too far with his antics, in my opinion. But in the end, he got what he wanted, so maybe he didn't.
Well, and ultimately, too, I thought because that deal was 3 weeks old and then he ended up signing it anyways, I think that was just him saying, let me see if there's anything else out there. Like, I've already taken it this far. What's another couple of weeks where I could see if another team steps up, wants to give me more money, too. And then I think once the CD Lamb deal came through and he was basically slotted in there, that's when he really had to take it. Because I think that's what he was waiting for, too, was, well, CD hasn't gotten paid yet. What if Dallas goes crazy and pays him more than Jefferson, right? Then all of a sudden he could justify a little bit more money. But I think that's all it was, is he was waiting for one of the other dominoes to fall. And then he fell right in line to where it should have been.
Yeah. All right. Trent Williams also, it sounds like, is getting a deal done to come back to San Francisco as well. His brother posted something about him flying back there and they're going to get a deal done. And I actually feel like they need him more than Ayuk, frankly, like if they're going to get anything done this year. All right. In a little bit, you'll hear a clip from Booth Review, which is the podcast they do with London Fletcher. It's actually about Emmanuel Forbes. But up next, we'll review all the things that happened in college football week 1. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Brad, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, listen, people say things on the internet all the time. There's no such thing as accountability anymore. When someone says they're going to do something, they don't actually do it. Go look at our top presidential candidates. They consistently lie about things they're going to do. Nobody needs to be held accountable. There is no judge and jury. So the guy is not the guy who said he would eat dog poo if Florida State lost to Boston College after they lost to Georgia Tech, is never actually going to be forced to eat dog poo. Albeit, I do like the pressure campaign from people saying, you said you were going to do it. You need to man up. It is time for you to pay your debt. And we all want to see you eat the poop. But I don't think it's going to happen. And there's no such thing as accountability. And we can't hold them to it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the internet. Like, what's real on the internet these days? Nothing. Nothing is real on the internet these days. So he's not going to do this. And I do think it's funny, though, that, like, there's always, I always make this joke. There's one main character on Twitter a day, and you never want to be the main character. And yesterday, he became the main character into today, that he's the guy that everyone's talking about now. Never be the main character on Twitter a day. That should be your goal when you wake up in the morning.
Meantime, like, what happened to them? Like, they were supposed to be in the playoff a year ago. They're terrible now.
It's their quarterback. I mean, he looks awful. Like, I don't know why they ran it back with him. And, like, DJ was supposed to be really good at Clemson. Then he transferred back to the ACC. I don't know who tried to convince themselves that he was the answer there this year. He looked god-awful last night. And that's all I could think of was, how did this guy look good all through the summer that you thought that this was okay? Like, this is the modern college NFL now, or modern college football now. You can get someone to transfer in. You just got to dangle out enough in the transfer portal. I can't believe they rolled with him as the answer, and he looked awful last night. That was the problem.
You mentioned Clemson. Holy cow. They got stomped in the second half by Georgia. And don't give me, well, that's Georgia. Clemson was Georgia 5 years ago, but they're not even remotely close to that anymore. Offensively, they stink, and that's been going on for a few years now. I don't know, man. Like, I can't wait for those coaches shows where he takes those phone calls from people.
Oh, he's not taking them. He's not taking calls anymore.
Oh, he won't do it anymore?
No, he's not taking calls. That came out last week. He's not taking calls anymore.
Oh, he won't take calls this year?
Yeah, because remember he got grilled.
That's an admission you know you're not going to be very good.
Well, no. Remember last year, who was it? It was the guy that
somebody called. He got into it with him about how much money he makes. It was about how much money he makes, which is always funny when you complain about someone's salary when they lose. Meantime, he's like, I won multiple matchups, guy. What do you think? I didn't earn this?
Right. The other, my favorite stat of the weekend is this. There are 3 schools that did not have a single player come in through the transfer portal. Army, Navy, Clemson. 2 of those schools, very good reasoning of why you're not spending money, right? Like commitment, whatever. The third one, Dabo, God's not going to just hand you a better team. Like, take in some transfers here, guy. Like, the fact that Dabo is going to die on this hill, it's going to get him fired. Like, there's no way around it. Like,
why would he do that? What's the reasoning?
His whole thing is he doesn't believe in like the NIL stuff. This has been his whole entire thing. So when these players enter the transfer portal,
maybe you should give the money back. If you don't believe in the money, give the money back.
That's what I'm saying. And so, like, it's really weird. Like, dude, Coach K came around on it. Saban came around on it. It took Saban a year, but all these legendary coaches have come around on it, and you're going to die on this hill. And he's done the whole, like, we're in God's hands now. It's like, I guess you are, dude, because you're not getting better players. The fact that he's there with Army and Navy.
Does God have $20 million? Because that's what the other teams are paying.
Right. So, yeah, it's a ridiculous thing that they don't even have. They're not even filling in the cracks is what I'm getting at, though. Like, you don't need to, like, pay for the top tier quarterback, but to fill out a roster now, you take some of those transfers in, and they had zero.
Yeah, the crazy part of that is, like, if things go sour with Clemson, if they keep losing 34-3 at will, you'd think he'd turn around and get some massive job at a massive program somewhere else. But if this is his position on the whole thing, he wouldn't.
Right. He's done. He's done if he doesn't change this. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. The other one I thought was a show me, and I just don't know if Florida's any good or not, but Miami just thumped them down in the swamp. Their quarterback looked awesome.
Yeah.
So he's going to get early Heisman hype because he was making crazy plays running around out there. And maybe the U is back, everybody. Maybe the U is back.
Is it the U or Texas is back? I mean, it's got to be
Texas
one of the.
Definitely back. Texas has been back. Texas is dead. That was last year. Texas came back last year. The U might be back this year, maybe. And I'm going to bet down there, not knowing much, they do believe in paying the players.
They
do believe that. They were ahead of the curve on that one.
That was the old. I used to make the joke about how MGM National Harbor out there. They used to like. We were just waiting for sports gambling to be illegal, and then the concrete wall was going to come down, and the sports book was going to be there. Miami's NIL office. It was always there. There was just one sheet of drywall, separating it from the hallway.
No, their NIL office was shady characters on yachts with scantily clad women. That was their NIL. That was their NIL office. It's just now mostly legal. Most of that is legal now.
Their NIL office is actually next to James Harden's booth at the strip club next to the airport. Yeah. That's actually where their NIL office was.
Yes. Let's see. What else did I see? I want to show you this one. Okay. This is what I saw from the weekend. Listen, like I know you're going to make fun of the Terps for winning big, and then I'm going to be fooled again because they won like 50-7. And I'm not even going to go there, but just give me a ruling on a McLaurin wearing 17 in this area, and they're not related, by the way.
Yeah.
Josiah, who, oh, by the way, and I am aware that there was a tragedy in his family, and I'm sorry for that. Like, that's terrible. And I saw the touchdown he scored, and like that was wonderful. But I just want a ruling on you're a McLaurin in this area wearing 17. How do you feel about that?
I'm fine with it. There's only so many low numbers, and low numbers are the ones you want to wear if you're a wide receiver these days. Big coincidence. I'm fine with it. Like,
okay,
I'm fine
All
with
right.
it.
Let's see. I got another one for you. What about how about this one from this weekend? This is real. This is Jack Carson Wentz.
Carson-Wentz for those listening.
He knows that's funny, right? Like he's in on the joke, correct? He's in on the joke.
I mean, I'm gonna guess this has been a joke with him since Wentz was drafted, and now it's finally like boiled over because now everybody sees it, right? Like he finally hit the main stage with it, so he's probably heard it for a long time. But I mean, that's an all-timer. Like that's all time. Like his parents with the last names Carson and Wentz got married, and he happens to be a very weird quarterback story, and he's now playing football. I mean, there's a lot of layers to this. Maybe one of the greatest jersey snafus of all time.
It could be. I also want Scott to go there and interview him very badly.
Will their AD get mad that Scott's asking him questions?
It's a possibility. All right, last one, and last ruling from college football, and I have a feeling I'll never do this, but this was happening at at Wisconsin. That's Tim Brando.
Yeah.
He got famous for butt slapping his color analyst during jump around, and this is Tim Brando doing jump around again over the weekend. What do you think?
I'm fine with it. Fine with it. More fun. I've always been more fun. Okay. More fun, always. And like, let some of these traditions, especially when you're at a home stadium, just enjoy it. Like, I think we need more of this. I've had this discussion with you many times over the years, especially with like guy like Romo now in the booth. Let these guys have fun. Like, you should be able to take in some of this stuff. I'm fine with it. Completely at home with it.
What if you saw videos of me in London doing that on Sundays? What would you be cool with it?
If it was
make fun of me, I already know it. So there's a definite double standard if I'm Tim Brando in this video.
Yeah, but it's twofold. If you're at Northwest, what is it? Northwest Field, Northeast Field. What are we calling
Northwest
it?
Stadium.
Okay, Northwest Stadium. If you're at Northwest Stadium, and the Commanders are up, big in the fourth quarter, I got no problem with it. I'm still gonna make fun of you personally, but I'm fine with you doing it. It's if you're at Lambeau and jump around comes on or something and you guys start going crazy and they're losing. That's where I have a problem with it.
Okay. So scoreboard matters here.
Well, scoreboard matters, but they're also a neutral site too, though. So like, that's okay.
What about, since you brought up Green Bay, wasn't the famous Dan Snyder dancing video, but that was at FedEx Field.
Yeah, it was at FedEx. It was
in the booth when they were rolling Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers on like a Monday night, a Sunday night or a Monday night game.
Yeah, that was fine. I think that's perfectly fine. Like, but I'm just saying though, you have it weird though. You're a home broadcast, so you can't actually like take advantage. They're a neutral broadcast, so I think if they're at home, like whatever the home stadium is, they should be allowed to partake in whatever that tradition is.
I've been told we're putting cameras in our booth, so you may see one of these one day. We'll see.
Okay, but you got to keep the dancing only at home. That's what I'm telling you, because then,
fine.
Because that, or
you're setting rules.
Yeah, I am setting rules. I'm just trying to protect you because if
first it was like fine, more fun, and now you're like, but the fun for you can only happen in certain scenarios
because you're a home broadcast. They're a neutral broadcast. There's rules on this. Like you can openly root for the team you're calling. They can't. So like, there's a couple of rules here that go your way, but if you start celebrating like crazy when you're only up 7 in Dallas and Dallas comes back and wins, you know what your Twitter timeline is going to look like.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm just saying.
I have a feeling me dancing is a bad idea just in general, but that's just me.
Aren't you a good dancer?
Like,
don't you like to brag that you're a good dancer?
No, I don't want like, who do you like more, this stupid dancing person or the guy who eats poop for Florida State? Like, I don't. Like, again, do I want to be the central character of Twitter? I do not.
That's right. No, that's a goal you should strive for every day. Yes.
All right, take a quick break. You'll hear me and London Fletcher talking about Emmanuel Forbes from the podcast Booth Review next. Bram Washington Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. Welcome back, Bram Washington Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. So every Monday during the season, London Fletcher and I are going to be releasing a new podcast called Booth Review. You can check that out through all of the Commanders media channels, or of course you can just subscribe and download wherever you get your podcasts. It's going to be aired as on video as well. You can see it now. It's up on YouTube, and go to commanders.com. You'll check it out there as well. As we get set for week one of the major challenges that Washington faces in its opening game is the set of receivers that Tampa Bay brings into this matchup. And of course, the revamped, rejuvenated, and revitalized Baker Mayfield, who had an outstanding first season with the Buccaneers a year ago, helped them win 7 of their last 10 games, get to the playoffs, win a playoff game. They defeated the Philadelphia Eagles, then went up to Detroit and were within 1 score in the fourth quarter of a close game. They were that close to getting to the NFC Championship a year ago. Of course, they're more known for what they do on the defensive side of the ball, and maybe Baker is making some believers in him now after a long and arduous road at the start of his career after being the number 1 overall pick. But what is for certain is that this team does come in with an arsenal of viable weapons that Washington's going to have to deal with, namely in Mike Evans, who did re-sign with the Buccaneers this year. So he is trying to head towards a place where he will play his entire career there, and then likely into Canton as a Hall of Fame wide receiver. Go look at the numbers that he's posted in his career. Chris Godwin is a very, very strong number 2. And there's a couple of very young receivers there that they're very high on that we'll focus on later in the week. Couple speed receiver threats that are going to be interesting tests, probably from the slot for the rookie Mike Sanders in his debut. But the point being, one of the areas of vulnerability or perceived vulnerability this year for Washington in year 1 under Dan Quinn and Joe Witt's defense is the cornerback position, where they have the 2 carryovers, Benjamin St. Juste and the former first-round pick Emmanuel Forbes, who have taken most of the number 1 reps throughout camp. There has been some rotation with the veteran Michael Davis, who came over as a free agent this year. And then there was some hints of Mike Sanders, the rookie, maybe moving to the outside, but he's been profiled mainly in the slot or the star position that they call it. Noah Igbenogany, who made the team, is kind of a primary backup there, but they feel comfortable with him in the slot as well. So there's a possibility that we could see Sanders move to the outside at some point during the season as well. And there were a number of people that thought after cutdown day that might be a spot that the team would look to potentially upgrade the core that they have, but no players were picked up in the course of finding new additions to the team. So they're going to roll into week 1 with what they have. And Emmanuel Forbes is a very interesting person to watch. The former first-round pick, of course, a bit undersized, but has been a player that the coaches keep trying to pump up his confidence, keep telling him that he is getting better, that they like what he's doing. The coaches have been effusive about him, that he's been getting better as camp goes along. And he was the topic of one of the discussions that London Fletcher, my partner in the broadcast booth on Sundays, had on the newly released Booth Review podcast through the Commanders. Let me ask you about another former first-round pick, Emmanuel Forbes, who was never in any danger, really, of not making the team or anything like that. But he's had a long summer. He even talked about, some of the outside criticism that he'd received. He knows he's a former first-round pick. He makes one mistake. Everybody's all over him. Don't read Twitter. Turn it off. I've seen kind of growing chemistry with his teammates. Like, I've seen this online. I've seen this on the field. They've really welcomed it in. They've been supportive of him. Coaches talked openly about how he keeps getting better and better and better. What do you make of Emmanuel Forbes, not only just being on the roster, which I think was obvious, but like as he heads into his second regular season under this new coaching staff?
I think the coaching staff did a great job of, first of all, building Emmanuel's confidence back up. And some people may listen to this and say, man, he's a pro football player, first-round draft pick. How could his confidence kind of waver? I don't care where you've been drafted, what status you are. have. You can have confidence issues. Last season, had a couple rough moments in some ball games, and all of a sudden you lose that, and you give us some plays, and in this world of social media where the criticism is so loud and it's immediate and you hear that criticism, it's tough to gain your confidence back as a football player, and I'm speaking from my own experience as well, to gain that confidence back during the season without having multiple games in a row where you play well. He didn't have that, so he's all of a sudden doubting himself a little bit. The outside noise is creeping in. So he goes through the offseason and like, man, you gotta rebuild that up. Hey, and I think Joe Witt Jr., the coaching staff, the position coaches built his confidence back up to where he all of a sudden he has some swagger back, and he feels like, okay, I can go out, I can make plays. Every player is going to give up plays. I don't care what position you play. You're going to give up plays. His was going to be magnified more so because you got some people that just can't forget the pass and like, oh, man, here we go again type moment. If he gives up a big catch or if he gives up a touchdown, he can't get caught up in here we go again. And I think he's at a point where he understands, man, I'm in a great moment. I'm in a great spot. I'm confident. I'm being coached well. All I got to do out and go and do my best each and every week. And I think Forbes actually played pretty good in the preseason, and obviously the coaching staff felt the same way.
I thought he came along, as the preseason was progressing. Then obviously he didn't play in the final preseason game. Like, one more thing on him, I think I've seen this a lot. Like guys at this level, they're here for a reason, right? The ego has to be attached to it. It's a very physical game. It's a violent game. He comes in here, he's not an imposing physical stature. But think about the receivers that have come out of the SEC. Think about the quarterbacks that have come out of the SEC, including the one that's here now, right? And he's the one that they didn't want to throw the ball to his side of the field because he's the one that might take it to the house. He knows that. Mm-hmm. Then he comes here and he runs into the first bit of adversity of, oh, that's what A.J. Brown's like. Oh, that's what playing against CeeDee Lamb might be like. Oh, that's what the NFL game might be like. So he's going to find out the hard way, just like everybody else does in this league. And I agree. Like, I like what I've seen from him, standing up, answering the questions, dealing with it, and this staff being extremely supportive, and his teammates too.
Yeah.
That stuff matters. You can see how supportive they are of him.
Yeah, you can see that. But he also had to go out and put in the work, and he did that. So you can the support is great, but Emmanuel also put in the work, and he's continuing to put in that work. And I want to see how this season goes for him, and hopefully he's out there making a ton of plays and just being the guy that was making all those picks in the SEC. We need some turnovers around here, and I want to see him do it.
Well, I think that's what they see in him too, just like Rivera's group did. I think they see him and they go, listen, this group values getting the ball above everything else. Get the ball. Ball is life. I mean, that's what they talk about. He's the guy on the defense that might get it. And if they can unlock that with him, with his speed, instincts, and his hands, because when the ball comes his way, he catches it. I think they're hoping that they're going to flip him into a turnover machine, which is what they've done with a lot of corners through the years.
Yeah. Confidence. The speed is great. The experience and all those types of things. But when I'm confident in my ability and I'm out there playing corner and I'm covering whatever receiver and I'm lined up across the field from him, I'm getting in his face, and I feel like I don't care what you do, you can't beat me because I'm so confident in my ability. That's when you make plays, and that's when you lock receivers up. That's where he needs to be.
Me and London will be releasing a new episode of Booth Review every Monday after every game, of course, with the exception of the Monday night game, week 3. We'll put that out on Tuesday for you. But London and I off of what we see in the booth. You get to check that out for an hour. Subscribe and download to Booth Review wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check it out on all of the Commanders official media channels. All right, that'll do it for today. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.